So Twitter, as you all know, is now renamed as X. But it's better to, I find it better for ease of understanding and communication to still refer to as Twitter. But now the platform has been called, renamed as X. So today we are going to talk about how integrating Twitter and blog writing into your classrooms can enhance their effectiveness and also the learning. One thing we should bear in mind is that the students or the youngsters these days are going to go on to the social media. They are going to navigate the various pathways and various platforms to see what is available. And we cannot dismiss or discount the fact that they're going to spend a lot of time online. So keeping that in mind, while so many other propositions such as exploring aspects of what is available as far as entertainment is available, uh, those will always be alluring for our students. We can always introduce them to certain other positive and constructive usage of these online platforms, like Twitter, like blog writing, and there's more to it. For example, LinkedIn helps them in networking, but Twitter and blog writing can definitely be used for knowledge sharing. And Twitter, you can, as teachers, can incorporate them into your classrooms for various aspects. So the first one is now displayed on your screen. The first thing is that you can tweet your homework and assignments. It can be an exciting probability for students to make their profile on Twitter. Twitter is, as opposed to Facebook or Instagram, it is still considered purely a platform wherein there is a lot of in exchange of information and knowledge, as opposed to gossip, rumors, political views, though they are also exchanged there, they are also broadcast there. But most of the people who are logged into or who have their accounts on Twitter are of the intelligentsia strata of the society. Why does this happen? This happens because Twitter found its origin as a platform that allowed only 150 characters to be posted initially. It did not allow any video clips, it did not allow any pictures, and any other aspect of engaging people or hooking them on through the release or the artificial release of dopamine, which is then nowadays induced by rampant use of Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, these kind of handles. So by retaining this kind or advocating this kind of a philosophy and a methodology of usage of the platform, Twitter ensured that only certain kind of people logged on to it. Twitter ensured that only certain kind of information was shared. So that has, that initial display or that initial hooking onto our systems of interaction, Twitter has ensured that majorly that constitutes the nature and characteristics of this platform. So therefore Twitter can definitely be used for a lot of exchange of information, looking for information, research and all. So as teachers, you can make your profiles, make them be very meticulous in drafting your profile. Thank you. So, teachers should make an effort to make a very succinct and a very attractive and conveying the right, crisp meaning of profile. So, their picture, the way they have used their picture, that will also convey a lot of information and a lot of learning to the students. For example, I have seen so many of youngsters would like to put up their profile picture or display picture, DP. So, as teachers, when we make our profiles from the first step itself, we can convey a lot of learning for our students. As I was saying, that youngsters these days invest a lot of time and energy in clicking the right DP or display pic, and what they come out with is, expression of their personality, but which is a total misfit into the sphere or the zone of their life that they're wanting to tap into. Having a very eccentric, different, unique, eye-catching, captivating, with a lot of undertones of meaning kind of a display pic on WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram is a totally different matter as compared to having a profile picture on LinkedIn and on Twitter that conveys, and for that matter, if they make their own blogging handle, even the picture or the Google profile, because today I'm going to talk about making a blogging handle on Blogspot, which is an accompaniment or an associated service offered under G Suite or Google Suite. And so the same picture which goes on the blogger's main display pic goes as the picture for the Gmail account, that is to which that blogging account is connected. So having a profile picture for these professional platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter and Gmail is different than the profile picture that we'll have on WhatsApp. So in that regard, teachers can set an example, a good example for students to follow from their profile picture itself, as to how professionally their profile picture is clicked. It's not as if they're getting ready for a family function or they're having a good time at a very exotic location during the family vacation and then they've clicked that picture. It shows beautiful expressions of them as a person and beautiful aspects of their personality, but they do not specifically fit well into the entire paraphernalia of a professional sphere of an individual. That is why that will not be a good idea for students. So when teachers set that example with a very descriptive, very meaningful and conveying the right sense and essence background, that big broad strip that runs at the background of the profile picture on Twitter, on blogging handles and on LinkedIn, that in itself can create a convey a lot of meaning to the students. It can give them a lot of food for thought. It can give them something to think about as to how they are presenting themselves to the world, and then start interacting and communicating. So once you do that, and once you fill up your
Start by
information
time 10:30,
very
11.
meticulously, very professionally, then you can start using the platform. So the
And time to
platform, the
take na.
first thing that you can use
Yeah.
the platform for is for
If I miss
tweeting
the chat,
or sharing homework and assignments. Now the homework can be, when it is shared in the classroom, and like just now Dr. Dutt was talking about
that's
flipped
the combination
classroom.
is there.
So when you want to
After
share
eating,
the
go for walk.
information
After eating, we
amongst
can.
a large group of students, and also some of them might have joined online or dropped out of the online classroom
Ah,
because of
earlier
technical
itself.
glitches, so they can get into the knowledge, or they can get information about what was the homework that was taught, that is expected, or that was given after the session. You can
Ah,
share
it's
the same
practice.
thing over Gmail, you can share the same thing over WhatsApp. But let me tell you,
It's
Gmail is associated with emails which has lot of reading content and
only one.
material. So you can write lengthier,
Yes.
documents or lengthier emails in Gmail. Saying ki you can share these homeworks and assignments over email and WhatsApp. Why not? But then there is a flip side to it.
Okay.
When you share homeworks and assignments on email or Gmail, then one tends to write longer text because we have all the liberty and the space to do so on Gmail. So then, human brain, including mine and also that of the students, will get tired. Oh, this is lengthy. I'll look it up later. So perhaps, then we keep stalling and pushing it back, pushing this back to taking care or looking up the email later. So the very important information or message about homework and assignments can be missed by the students. Whereas if you share the same thing in the WhatsApp group, which has very stringent privacy settings, wherein you are the admin, no one else is allowed to post except for the admin, and you open the group for interaction, common interaction at specific times during the day, and you encourage, there's a strict policy about what kind of messages will be posted and not, and there's someone constantly monitoring and supervising during that open time also. Still, what happens is, once the students access that application, WhatsApp application, then things, it's not necessary that they will go directly to the group of the class or your subject. They might just go to other chats, and those other chats are very informal in nature. Then the student who, with all the motivation and all the determination, wanted to take up something focused and dedicated and restricted, related only to his or her academics, might get distracted in informal chit chat and other kind of talks. And then again, despite their best efforts, the very important message sent by you might just get delayed, or might just get, very later in the queue of occupying their attention and focus. As opposed to that, if you post it on Twitter and tell them that I'm available only on Twitter and everything goes only on Twitter, first is you end up writing lesser. So it's easier for you to post also. It's easier for them to read. So the incumbency, associated with reading lengthy, verbose messages, emails, that they can rid themselves of, because the platform does not allow you to post longer text. You can post as a thread or a comment to your main post, but then again it is broken up. So the mind registers that it is a small piece of text that I have to read once. Then again, if I need to know more, then I read, and I can determine the length. It will not be too much. Second is, on Twitter, the chances of their other friends, their family members, and other people who are not from a professional background, or who do not have a taste for information, knowledge, and particularly intellectual content, they are not going to be having their accounts, they are not going to be logged in, they are not going to be active. So the chances of getting distracted by other kind of chitter chatter are manyfold reduced. So that is why I request, and I always advise teachers, that instead of using WhatsApp, why not use Twitter? It is always good and better, and you can create a clubhouse, you can create a group, you can create a community on Twitter. So you can create a community of your students, of the same batch, same class, same year, same school, so on and so forth. And you can even join groups and all. So that's possible. So you can use that to quickly tweet your homeworks and assignments. And you can put hashtags and all also on whatever tweets you put, so it will not only show up or reflect on the feed of the students who will be following you, or who will be looking specifically for the content posted by you. But if you have hashtags and other kind of trending words, keywords in your tweet, then it will also reflect on the timelines and the walls or the searches of other people who do not yet know of you, and who would come to know, okay, this is the work that you're doing. We need to do this kind of different kind of work and incorporate different pedagogical techniques into our teaching. That's because that makes a lot of difference. Later during the session, I'll share a video with you. Here in 2010, a teacher from the US, she used a very different technique to reach out to students and make connection with them who had very strong walls up against her and her subject. And we have many such examples in India as well, wherein teachers have gone on to use different techniques to engage students and to keep them hooked on to learning and the subject. In addition to tweeting your own content, wherein sharing information with students as to what they should be learning, and how they should be, going about completing their homework, you can also encourage the students to get attached to follow, to regularly discuss or talk about posts by various thought leaders. So, like I just mentioned recently, like I just mentioned in the beginning of the session, that Twitter has been shifted to X recently. That's because Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla vehicles, he took over Twitter because he felt that free thought and free expression are being curbed, especially by the US, when the platform of Twitter is concerned. It was earlier very independent, but gradually there was a lot of strict control and lopsided propaganda that was happening on Twitter, which happened also on Facebook. If you'll remember, Cambridge Analytica company that gathered information about Facebook users by sanction and permission of Mark Zuckerberg, and used that to change the trend of US polls and even affect to a different unexpected outcome that was embroiled in that kind of it is actually evidenced and uh, thoroughly backed by case, and it has been proven that this was the manipulation that was brought about. So Twitter's platform was also being used for that, because people identify Twitter as a platform wherein there is objective, free, and unbiased sharing of information and knowledge that happens continuously. But then this platform was also being manipulated by governments, by organizations, so on and so forth. So Elon Musk decided to buy it and free it up. So after that, now again there is a surge in, there's an upswing in sharing of authentic, genuine information. Thought leaders also like to share some of their ongoing research or a broad area of research. Project leaders, especially of Ivy League colleges and universities or Russell Group College and universities, like to share their, certain uh, aspects of salient features or broad aspects of the ongoing research in wake of attracting the right kind of talent, or getting the right kind of people to join their group, research group, or their coterie, so that the research can become much more robust and much faster. So that research that has not yet been standardized but is still in its nascent stages, it's still a thought which is very innovative, very new and novel, is also shared at times by thought leaders. And if we continue to if we encourage our students to follow these people who are making path breaking innovations and advancements in different fields, not only science and technology, but also art, literature, sociology, political science, geography, economics. If we encourage our students to whatever the subject is to follow these kind of thought leaders, they will come to know that what is happening in the world. So while our syllabus has not been revised, or there are limitations, not that it is not purposefully, or on some kind of an ulterior motive, because of an ulterior motive that our syllabus for the polytechnic colleges or other colleges and universities is not revised. There's limitations to revising the uh, curriculum as well. Besides, it's not even advisable to keep revising it very consistently or regularly. But then latest information or latest new thought, new ideology, or new line of inquiry can be encouraged in our students. They can be exposed, their worldview can be made to turn in that direction if we ask them to read the content posted by thought leaders on Twitter. And this happens only on Twitter, sometimes on LinkedIn, and sometimes on blogs. Because usually, these are brief nuggets of wisdom for which researchers would not like to put in a lot of time, effort, and energy in writing on longer blog pieces. These are like sparks. These are like, balloons of thoughts and ideas. So they are very short, succinct, full of wisdom, and encouraging higher order thinking skills, deep research, rumination. So they will just put it out there in one or two sentences. That is why tweeting to them appeals so much. And that is how people who are so eager to devour, to acquire new knowledge of the field, can get hooked on to or follow these thought leaders, or follow, even for that matter, tags. If I want to know what is the latest research that is happening in cross cultural communication, I can follow the hashtag cross cultural communication. Or I can, even if I do not follow, I can just search cross cultural communication, then it shows up on my Twitter's line, on the search window on the top, whether it is people, whether it is accounts, is it trending, is it hashtags, what is it that I'm looking for. And once I click on that button, the virtual button, that post or that content is reflected on my screen. So this is how you can encourage your students that latest learning can also be acquired for free by getting onto Twitter. And you yourself can enhance your own sessions, your own lessons, your own lesson plans, by building lessons, designing lessons around the tweets by these thought leaders. So you may be following a couple of them who are, stalwarts, or who are emerging think tanks of your field and area, and you find that, somehow these 3 4 people placed at different corners of the world are, kind of thinking about the same things, or they're projecting about the same thing, or there's something similar that all of these are projecting would happen in the future. I can see the evidence of it in the offing. Then you can use that kind of a novel new concept and build a lesson plan in corroboration or supporting the subject or the concept that you're going to that is part of your curriculum, the regular design curriculum by the university or UGC that you follow. And this will encourage the students to see, to indulge in Twitter and to use it not only for acquiring knowledge, but also for reading trends, but also for collecting data and for analysis of data, which is not necessarily numeric, but also in the form of ideas and thoughts. So this is something that you can induce, and once you base your lessons around it, and if possible, you can even construct or design assignments around this kind of a methodology. Then what is happening is you're challenging your students to think from a higher level. You're not telling them, okay, it's rote learning or something that your predecessor or your elder brother or elder friend did, that you can look through the notes of the past year and you can just quickly cram through it and then you can clear the exams. You need to make a little bit of an effort, and if the concept is thoroughly embedded in you, then you can perhaps understand better and then communicate better. Now, while all this is happening, ladies and gentlemen, the students are exposed to the language, the various uses of language, how language undergoes certain changes in writing and speaking mechanics when it is used by people of different parts of the world. In fact, within the same country, like the Great Britain itself, would have 10 to 15 different types of English being spoken and used, also in professional, academic, and scholarly circles. So that also makes them aware of the variety of language, the variety of expression, and that improves their confidence with the language, their understanding and usage of the language. All this goes on to make them much more confident people, confident thinking beings when once they go out into the world to share their knowledge, share their learning, their enthusiasm, and their effort. So, this is something that you can consider. Like I was saying earlier, if you do not want to follow one particular person, you do not want to follow one particular institution, you do not want to follow one particular account, because then you feel that your understanding is going to be very restrictive, it's going to be unilateral, it will not be multifaceted, then you follow hashtags. So that shows a very objective, unbiased gathering of information for you, and encourage that in students also. So what it does is, we start, once we follow hashtag, I feel we encourage our students to think beyond the person and think beyond the physical aspect of an idea and start thinking about the metaphysical or the essence of the idea. So, for example, Greta Thunberg is talking about global warming, and her news is flashing everywhere on news channel, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and even on Twitter. She becomes trending, that so many people are looking at her, whatever latest has happened in as part of her agitation for climate change and global warming, and it has been retweeted and so on. So there are many links in the webs as far as Thunberg and her latest agitation is concerned. Now, when this is happening, young minds are so impressionable, and I've seen that trend in India also, that they start associating or assigning more value to Greta Thunberg as opposed to the cause that she is professing or she's advocating for. So, when you want this child or the student not to be, overwhelmed by the person, especially if a very heavyweight personality has, like Malala Yousafzai has talked about, something which is of real concern. So the attention is taken away from the concern, but it goes on to the person like Malala Yousafzai, or for that matter in India, Amitabh Bachchan or any Bollywood star. Then you encourage them to follow hashtags, so that the discussions in the classroom, even in the assignments, even the general understanding as to why my sir or ma'am has asked me to go to Twitter and look for information, remains clear in the mind of the student that they're asking you to connect with the concept, with the information, with the content, and not with the person. Do not start dressing up like Malala Yousafzai, or do not start, agitating on the roads like Greta Thunberg. Not that I'm saying that they're doing the wrong things, but this is not what you want of them. You do not want to make your students activists, but you want your students to become engaged in active thinking, deep thinking of concerns, very legitimate concerns raised by these kind of people, right? So then you can use hashtags. Once you find the temperament of your classroom becoming very superficial, introduce them to hashtags and talk about this hashtag. You can even talk about when this hashtag started becoming trending, popular, and why so many people talked about it. So it's not just one person who's shouting for rooftops and who happens to be very popular, but there are so many others who are moved by the same cause who are talking about this. And that will also help them realize the power of their own word, the power of their thought, their action, their intent, the power of one single unit, everybody down to the grassroots level, every single blade of the grass making its impact in a thing which is of global proportions. And that itself is very empowering. Ask them to talk about it. And I'll also like to share later on as to how one of my students talked about something, retweeted, interacted with someone who was very popular, and that how that at the relevant point, how that entailed into or developed into a much more relevant and a bigger opportunity for him to learn. You can even record your sessions, ladies and gentlemen, and of course you can post them on YouTube. But like I said, lots is posted on these kind of channels which have or platforms which have become more entertaining in nature than sharing of information. So it's always better, to include or to make sense to multiple learner personalities. So have, if you got something which is a written text, the platform also supports learning through other media like audiovisual aids. So record your sessions, especially in a flipped classroom. You can record audio instructions, you can record live experiments that you're performing or your class is performing, to encourage them to participate, to turn up. And you just say that I'm going to record the experiment that you're performing in the lab today or in the classroom, and with the permission of the parents, your permission, and the higher authorities in this university or the polytechnic college, I'm going to post it on Twitter so that you can see it there. You can refer to it at a later time, so to repeat, reinforce, and recall your learning. And you can even share it with your peers, friends, and other family members. That in itself adds another element to learning. It makes it playful. It makes it something which is aspirational in nature. So while dressing up a certain way, going to canes is in a certain manner, and that has been projected mostly as aspirational for our youngsters. This recording of sessions, sharing information, yeah, and interacting with or indulging in new concepts through experimentation or other kind of discussions, extempo poetry recitation for communication skills, mock group discussion sessions for enhancement of communication, so on and so forth. There are umpteen ways in which you can keep your students hooked on to learning even while they are online, logged into the worldwide net. So this is something that you should consider. There's no need for a high-tech device like a camera or a mic. And I have posted so many sessions on YouTube wherein I use my laptop's camera and mic. I'm using the same thing with you right now. I've even recorded sessions with my normal basic phone, and I can record it by looking, turning the phone, the front camera or the back camera. It's very fairly easy, and it is good enough quality for students to make sense of and even use it at a later stage. Now, before I move on to blog posts, I like to share with you the story of how Twitter helped one of my students to get into a very good opportunity as far as his career and academics is concerned. So, this boy was in class 10th when we were in the year 2020. And it was the beginning of the year during his winter break that he got in touch with me. And we were my setup and I were coaching a set of youngsters as to how they can go about building their profile and getting making use of better opportunities and creating better opportunities for themselves. So I asked him to make his profile on Twitter. He did. And then I asked him, what do you want to do? And he said that I want to be a chef one day. And I said, and I live in Chandigarh. And he also lives here, but he hails from an interiors of Uttarakhand. So I asked him, chef, but that's a very different and a very unconventional choice for you to have, and do your parents approve of it? He said, not really, not necessarily, but that is something that I enjoy. But then I have tried my best to convince them by showing them many videos and many examples of Vikas Khanna. Earlier we used to have Sanjeev Kapoor, the celebrity chef, but then Sanjeev Kapoor, Talla Dalal, they were just they were able to make their mark or leave their mark within India only. But Vikas Khanna, he hailed from a very humble background in Amritsar, and now he set up a Michelin star awarded restaurant, multiple. But first he set up in New York City, and then he moved to Australia, so Europe and all, and he's one of Michelin star, and he's my role model. And I really aspire to be like him, and I'm convincing my parents to let me follow my passion. I said, okay. So he said, after class 10th, I want to take up home science as a subject and also chemistry because it'll help me in study of nutrition and food later on. I said, that's very good. But I said, again, home science is a very unconventional subject for a boy, and I hope your parents accept it. I have no qualms, and I'm very happy that you're doing it. So then I encouraged. Then he said it is going to be difficult, but hopefully they are going to be turned by so many other examples, mostly Vikas Khanna. So he kept saying that name again. Right? I said, why don't you connect with Vikas Khanna on Twitter then and on LinkedIn? So on Twitter, Vikas Khanna had a bigger presence, more prominent presence as on LinkedIn at that time. So this boy makes his profile and he starts following Vikas Khanna, regularly commenting, appraising, talking about a little bit, discussion about recipes, so on and so forth, and how he tried something. He made a short video of it, posted it as a comment on his one of the posts that he did about a related recipe or something. And that is how he started being, once or two, one or times he's got a thumbs up from a like from Vikas Khanna as well. So this was happening, and this went on for good 2-3 months, and we went into lockdown. And then again, everything shifted online, and he continued. Adit continued his interaction with Vikas Khanna. Then Vikas Khanna said that there's a lot of food with him, and he sought permission from the local authorities. And also, his mother is alone and putting up in Amritsar, and he wants to send out food to people stranded, migrate laborers who have migrated and want to go back, or otherwise people generally who were dependent upon daily wages to fend for themselves. So he wanted to, with he secured the permission, but he wanted to start this relief and succor work, and he was looking for volunteers. So immediately Adit said that although I'm in class 10th, but in any case nobody can move out, so what I can do sitting at home, what others can do, who will be 18 or above, I too can do sitting at home. And besides, I'll enlist the help of my parents to help me with this. So just because he'd been following Vikas Khanna, and Vikas Khanna had also noticed this boy, he knew that this is a genuine, sincere worker who's motivated by the personality Vikas Khanna, not that someone who's trying to jump onto the popularity bandwagon. Because Sonu Sood's foundation or relief work with migratory laborers had suddenly got so much of media attention. So he roped in, he accepted Adit's offer. He spoke with him over the phone. There was a short video interaction, Google Meet interaction, and Adit got into this work. And then he was one of the volunteers who helped in organization of traveling logistics of material from here and there, and the relief work. So this was always happening. And around that time, all this work happened, and then Vikas Khanna appreciated all these people, and he was also appreciated. And then things went back to normal gradually. So after a passage of few months, I think it was towards the early months of 2021 or towards the end of 2020, the year of 2020, Vikas Khanna sends out a post on Instagram, and I was following him on Instagram, and it read that there's a first time ever he's offering a 2 day course, small course on desserts, and it's being offered online, and there are limited seats for it, and it's the opportunity to register is open for only a limited time. So immediately I shared the link with Adit and asked him to get in touch and all that. And when the whole thing was happening, and Adit's team and Vikas Khanna's team saw that Adit has applied for it, then Vikas Khanna sent him a message, in the group, that Adit, have you applied for that desert workshop? He said yes. He said, you don't need to pay. You are going to get this workshop for free. Please learn how as much as you want, and if there's some help that you want with it later also, I'll be available. These are the opportunities that are available to youngsters. For someone sitting in Chandigarh, hailing from the interiors of Uttarakhand, to be able to dream of these kind of things is totally impossible. But this becomes possible. This dream becomes a reality when we encourage our students to look at the various umpteen opportunities that are available on www. It's not necessarily that we can always and only get distracted by logging on to social media. As teachers, as people who have much more wisdom and experience in life, I feel it is our responsibility to showcase to the young impressionable minds also the other side of social media, for which it was actually thought, or perhaps for which it came into creation, that it can be used for connectivity, it can be used for information sharing, it can be used to multiply opportunities. So perhaps something like this you can come up. Once you interact with students, the brighter of the lot that you've got, you can encourage them, handhold them, paying specific attention to them, and then these shining examples go on to become icons or role models for the others in the group, others in the batch, and if not in that batch, perhaps in the succeeding ones. And before I continue sharing with this PPT, what I like to do is I will like to share a video with you, and allow me to stop presenting and share that video. I'll play the video. This is about Erin Gruville, the lady that you see in the forefront, around which 5 other students are huddled, and how she uses a very different technique to connect with students. She's written a book. The students themselves have written a book. It became such a popular concept that it was replicated by so many other schools and teachers everywhere. And she was interviewed. She got an International Teachers Award and a Leadership Thought Leader Award. And she was interviewed. This is an interview of hers, and what are the challenges that she faced and how she overcame them. So rather than having only her story shared here, I feel that the background work, the leg work, the effort that goes on part of the teacher to make pedagogy more relevant, and using social media more, making it more relevant, should be explored by us, and that is why I'm sharing this video. Please take a look at it. There aren't many people who can inherit a classroom at age 23. High school students, most of whom can care less about their education and transform it. These were students in East Los Angeles who had suffered through the worst that poverty, gangs, and violence mete out. And yet, our EDGE interviewee this month, through an extraordinary pedagogy, inspired your students. She sold them on the power of the pen above the knife. She got them to believe in themselves and synergize as a group. They raised money, traveling to Washington, D.C. and Europe. They wrote letters that became a best-selling book, and their story was turned into a Hollywood blockbuster. Most of us will never enter a classroom quite this hard, and yet we all know these dynamics. How do you take a student turned off from learning and inspire them? How do you get a group of individuals to coalesce as a team? And how do you release the potential for leadership and great things that we sense inside? We welcome you to Erin Gruville. So Erin, thanks so much for spending time with us this afternoon.
Whenever you're with educators, it's such a blessing. So to have the opportunity to speak to leaders who inspire other leaders, I walk away feeling like I'm a student. So tell us a little bit about when your story started. So I am a one-year teacher. I am an English teacher, and I began my career in Long Beach, California at Woodrow Wilson High School. I had ninth graders who weren't excited about reading or writing or anything that comes with an English classroom. And luckily, we were able to take that um, feeling of being miserable and angry and apathetic and turn it into one of celebrating the written word and using the written word to change lives. And so that's what I do now is I help teachers and students find their voice through writing and through celebrating great authors. We did a lot of analyzing teenagers who wrote stories about very difficult, painful things. And as we've traveled the country, we've got a lot of students who have stories to tell as well. So that's what we try to do is encourage them to put down a fist and pick up a pen. So every teacher has the experience of walking into a classroom and being excited about teaching something, and that excitement is not returned by the student. How do you get them to wake up? It's a great question. I think every day is different. You have to be very flexible in the moment as a teacher. Expect the unexpected. That our students are perfectly imperfect, and there's those moments where you just feel like you're a failure. And I learned to be in the moment and to rise above technology problems or bells and whistles that go off when kids are having a bad day. For me, I work with urban kids, so there's a lot of other issues that were out of my control. Whether or not a kid ate breakfast that morning, whether or not the lights were turned off the night before, whether or not they have clean clothes in the last month, whether dad is up for parole. So for me, there was a lot of other circumstances that I realized were part of my curriculum. Before they could open that book, before they could write that manifesto, I had to know who they were and what their story was. You can imagine some of the stories will probably feel ashamed and might not want to tell them. A lot of what I tried to do then, and I still try to do now, is create an environment where kids feel safe and an egalitarian, inclusive environment where everyone has a voice and everyone has a say, and we honor those stories. That we don't judge people. And so, for a lot of students who have felt shame, what they don't want is they don't want pity. They don't want handouts. They might need a hand up. And so, part of my classroom is just allowing my students to feel healthy and whole, and oftentimes heal some of those horrific things that happen outside of room 203, outside of the boundaries of the school. So creating an environment where my students came and felt supported and felt listened to and felt that they mattered was really important. So what are the tools that you use to do that? Is it the compassionate look on your face? Is it a touch? Is it a joke? Take us inside the room for a moment. How do you make a safe space, especially in the beginning? I think I have to establish boundaries. My students had to know that this was a hate-free zone, that we're not going to stand for any kind of bullying. We're not going to stand for any kind of isms, racism, or sexism, or ageism, and that we had to be vigilant in the moment when those things happened. We learned specifically from Holocaust survivors that evil prevails when good people do nothing. So I really want to set that tone that each and every one of us have to not stand idly by. And if we hear something that's inappropriate, we have to say something. If we see something that's inappropriate, we have to do something. And I think I really had that lesson come to life for me personally when I actually took my students to a concentration camp in Poland, to Auschwitz. And I saw all these homes and all these communities beside the railroad tracks and beside the camps, and people did do nothing, and people did stand idly by and allow those cries to fall on deaf ears. So for me, it was really about setting boundaries and structure about this is a sacred space, and we're going to agree to disagree, and we're going to challenge each other, we're going to ask questions, we're going to laugh, we're going to cry, we're going to show emotion. But at the end of the day, this is a place of great compassion and great understanding and great hope. And another incredible anecdote I learned from this fabulous survivor from Auschwitz. She said, it's not just enough to tolerate me. I don't want that. I want people to get to the point where there's acceptance. So I had started my class with one of my goals was about tolerance, and I now no longer use that word. It's not enough. It's all about striving towards acceptance. What would you say your strength as a teacher is? And what would you say your weakness has been that you had to work hard at? I I'll start with my weakness. I think my weakness is I'm a big thinker, and there's a lot of minutia that goes with being a teacher. And I didn't realize going in, being an English teacher, how many papers you have to grade and how all-consuming it is. It is overwhelming, and I didn't set great boundaries for me. I had great boundaries for my class, for my students, and this environment. And I took all of those stories home with me, and they became overwhelming. So I think my weakness was not knowing how to say no, not knowing when to turn it off, not asking for help when I was overwhelmed. And initially, as a first-year teacher, I tried to do everything myself, and in retrospect, that's really foolish. So now I become very vulnerable and I ask for help. And when you ask for help, you set yourself up for rejection. So I have to face rejection. But every once in a while, when someone says yes, and I'll help you, I'll be a part of this journey, it's worth the ask. It's worth putting yourself out there. So I think those are my weaknesses. I hope that my strength is, as much as I love being a teacher, I love being a student more. So I can create an environment where everything's set up perfectly, and my students take over, and they're the teachers. And it's very Socratic and very student-centered. That's my strength, is watching the magic unfold. The world is a really chaotic place, and I've just learned you don't have to control the chaos. That sometimes in those moments, kids laughing, singing, and being what would seem to the outside world as out of control. In those out of control moments, that's where the real beauty comes, and the real learning, and the real lessons. So I just sprinkle the magic, and the kids take it from there.
Do you think any student can learn to translate?
And I think that's the frustrating thing in 2014 to even have that question. Education can be very polarizing. It can be very, unfortunately, elitist at times. And I've experienced that when the Freedom Writers Diary came out. My students and I have been able to travel the entire country and see many different communities that are very similar and or different to where we came from. Schools are still segregated in 2014, even after Brown versus Board of Education. Students are still failing. People still pick on this profession. And I hope that we get to a point where we can get it right, where we don't have people who don't understand how powerful this profession is, having those unfunded mandates that don't work, and those things that come and go, and demoralize our teachers and make them feel overwhelmed, and then leave the profession. I believe in my heart that education is a calling, and that it is bigger than myself. And so when I am allowed to follow that calling, I believe that that's where the passion comes from, the enthusiasm. So I'm hopeful about our future, but I'm more hopeful about allowing a kid and a teacher to make that connection in a classroom.
How do you make that connection?
That's a great question. I never thought about it that way. I think I just try to be in the moment and to be. I don't take me to Vegas. I have no poker face. So if I'm anxious, you're gonna know. If I'm terrified, you're gonna know. If I'm excited, you're gonna know. And when I was getting my teacher credential at the university, I remember a professor said, "Don't smile till Christmas. Never show emotion. Don't wear your heart in your sleeve." All these don'ts. And I walked in on day one, and I was like, I have to be who I am. So I think I live in a world of hyperbole. English teacher, so I like melodrama. I like hyperbole. I like adjectives. I like things that are expressive. And so I had to bring those elements to my classroom. But along with all of that also comes the flip side, like Pandora's box. When you open the box, a lot of bad stuff comes out, and at the bottom there's hope. But in my classroom, to get to that hope, I had experienced a lot of pain with my students. And that's where the empathy came from, and that's where the compassion came from. I wasn't prepared for it, and I didn't expect it. But when it happened, I wanted them to know that it was safe, and that it was okay, and they weren't going to be judged. And that through a classroom and through kids and teachers, things could and will get better. And I'm so thankful that they did. And that's what the beauty of education is. I think we all have kids who need us somehow, some way, and we're just, as educators, lucky to be there for our kids, regardless of the color of their skin, or economics or the kind of subject matter we teach. I think the beauty of our profession is that we are able to be there for another person.
Any last words of advice that you might have for the teacher who yearns to connect, who yearns to inspire, and who says, I just don't know if I have the time, and it's kind of scary.
I think I admit that's scary. I think you walk in anticipating that. It is terrifying. It is terrifying to be in front of a group of teenagers that can ask anything. They have the best BS detectors. So you can't be something you're not, because if you are, they'll call you out, and they should. I think that's one of the last bastions of being real. Like my students always would say, keep it real. And I think that's when you can be in an environment that's educational and keep it real. There's nothing better. I feel that education oftentimes is a very subjective science. So sometimes when we're too objective, we lose things in transition. And so as a reading teacher, it was all about interpretation, and it was all about bringing meaning. There's different interpretations, there's different meaning. So for me, it was all about being flexible, not being too controlling, not trying to take my opinions and reinforce them, but allowing my students to come up with their own opinions and to follow that discourse and to follow that path. So I would think for all teachers, go in this profession if it is your passion. Go in this profession if it is your calling, and fight for it. It's a difficult profession, but I think it's the most noble and the most meaningful. And so I'm so proud to call myself a teacher, and so proud to be an educator. And I hope that those that call themselves teachers and educators feel that same pride each and every day.
Well, on behalf of the Gardner Carney Leadership Institute, and as you know, our focus is to build leadership in students, to teach the teachers to do this, and you're just a shining exemplar in that profession. So I just want to thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you. Spending the day with your colleagues was a gift. Amazing, brilliant folks who passionately.
All right, so I've stopped presenting that. Are there any questions till now about Twitter or about this video that we saw? So this is Erin Grubel, but they are not restricted only to Western world. In India, we have Paresh Rawal's wife, who's into teaching. Her name is escaping my memory now. She used to come in. She was a very popular actress of the TV soap opera in the heydays, which was titled "Yehi Jo Hai Zindagi," Swaroop Sampath, and she had, she went on to marry, yes, Swaroop Sampath. Thank you, Dr. Ritu Singh. She went on to marry Paresh Rawal and then have two sons. And because of two children, she decided to give up her acting career and stay at home. Once the sons grew up and they had a life of their own, she decided to, since she had dedicated decades of her life to teaching youngsters, so she decided to, make a foray into teaching, and she did her bachelor's in education and so on and so forth, and she went on to study from Cambridge University. Her completed her thesis in how oratory and theatrics or acting skills can be used to enhance empathy, communication, and increase the learning quotient of students. And she practiced that, applied that in a government school in the rural area in the state of Gujarat. And she was one of the runners up for the International Student Teachers Awards. We've even had Mr. Ranjit Singh from Maharashtra, who during the COVID times in the year 2021 developed a QR code, and by scanning that, the students could get access to class 8 textbooks of all the subjects. Why am I mentioning these people is, like, while Swaroop Sampath used a different technique of pedagogy to encourage more learning, infuse more learning, and make it more interesting for students to learn, Mr. Ranjit Singh showed the initiative, the proactive approach, and the innovative approach a teacher can have to solve real world problems for our students. So, as I was talking about next, blog writing is a longer piece of writing. So unfinished research papers or initial thoughts can also go on there, although they are very confidential. But still, certain other aspects of insights that one would have are also shared on blogs. I regularly post blogs of my own. I follow many blogs since I come from psychology, business management, consultancy, so on and so forth. I like to follow Harvard Business Review's blogs. I like to follow Huffington Post blogs. I like to read FS Street, Furnham Street blogs on managing people and management skills. So, these are certain blogs that enrich me and inform me in my daily conduct of work and just gathering knowledge. It blogs provide the freedom of getting into an informal mode of learning, and that to learning from people who are experts in the areas. So I don't need to enroll into a course which has very structured program, assignments, and free spoken English. I can have a very unstructured, informal, at my convenience opportunity to learn when I follow a particular blog. So that aspect of blog reading or posting and reading should be encouraged. Blog, and also we can accentuate learning for our young scholars by encouraging them to write blogs, especially if some of them are going to become scholars or academicians in future. They need to know how to write longer pieces, dealing with higher order thinking, research backed, and delving deeper into the concepts. And blog writing can encourage that. Blogs can be of as much length as one wants. And one of my students, again, she was also interested in the culinary arts. Her mother owns a cafe in the city. And while in class 11, the girl, you in Chandigarh, we have classes, the academic schedule calendar for classes 11th and 12th till 12 or 12:30 every day of the week. After that, the students are free. So this young girl enrolled into a diploma program offered by the Food and Technology Institute here, recognized by the Government of India, international body that gives star certificates to hotels and restaurants, 1 star, 2 star, so on and so forth. And she enrolled in the diploma program, which she would attend after school, and she earned a dual degree. And then she started writing blogs of her forays into her mother's professional kitchen, cafe's kitchen. And she started posting pictures, experimenting with recipes, writing short blogs about it. After a couple of weeks, her blogs garnered so much of attention that a bigger website that would have host of different writers writing about different topics approached her that they are ready to enshrine her blog in their website, in their online website, and also ready to monetize it. Look at the encouragement that the youngster got, and that too just by interacting and learning. So this is something that you can encourage your students to do. First, they can read. This will provide a very different way of learning. While the textbook language is very heavy and sometimes filled with jargon, but in order to connect with the masses, the experts here share specialized knowledge in a very easy to understand language. These blogs usually have mm, accompaniments of texts, for example, pictures and videos. So they will be, so they will become much more engaging for the students to learn, to know. And more than that, they can, even understand that, the writer who goes on to write about a particular topic has explored that topic from various aspects. So, like I said, when there's a
जी मैम
particular
प्लीज
one topic about which a thought leader or an expert is regularly posting content, we start getting much more deeper insights, much more specialized knowledge on that subject, because the content needs to be different, but it is about the same topic. And these kind of deeper insights, deeper learning will not always find place and space in the textbook, which has been prepared for learners with different levels of understanding and different levels of engaging with the concepts in the classroom. So, if some of your students want to know more, want to explore a topic in much more depth, then you can encourage them to follow blogs, to read blogs by experts. Another aspect, like I said, was getting deeper knowledge about the subject. Now, when they do that, they start thinking differently about the concept, and the subject starts intriguing them and becomes more interesting for them because they see very visual and visual appeals, or like the audio visual experiments video going on the blog or the pictures going on the blog, so the understanding can also become much better. There's also a possibility to engage with the expert, because why else is someone posting a blog in a very public domain or a public sphere? They're doing that so that they can reach out to the masses and develop a loyalty or a readership which is very loyal, and also have them engage with the topic or engage in the public discourse. So, for that reason, experts encourage comments and discussions on the blogs that they've posted. So, you will always find that a relevant comment or a sensible comment will have a response by the original author. When that happens, it encourages the youngsters, the young minds, that, oh, I'm talking directly to the person who wrote, and he's such a such celebrity, thought leader, such a such expert, such a renowned leader, or such a renowned philosopher or thinker across the globe on this topic. And I'm able to have a direct conversation with him or her through the medium of this blog. So that will also encourage them to get latched on to this aspect of learning, which requires higher order skills or skills of higher degree of proficiency, that is reading and writing. So that automatically is going to support other functions of their being a scholar, that is to be able to read better the text that they're provided better, and to respond to it in a better manner by assimilating it and then writing about it. There are many other opportunities, like I shared, with the blog, with the Twitter. Many other opportunities become available to our students to connect and interact, to even develop industry licensing, to develop outside the classroom learning opportunities, hands on practical learning opportunities by getting involved with the expert. One of my students got in touch with a research guide over a blog, and he hails from he used to study in the year 2021. He was pursuing engineering, bachelor's in engineering from Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology here in Patiala, and he engaged with a Japanese research guide, research project leader from who was based in Australia. And the subject was common area of interest. They both interacted, and then over a period of few months, the situation or the circumstances unfolded in such a manner that this person was able to get a position of researcher with him, as a fellow with him in the research program. And this young boy went to Australia, and I think he was there for good 1.5 2 years, and he was even given the opportunity to stay back and complete the research. The project leader offered to extend and all that, but he wanted to come back to study, or perhaps pick up a job, because he felt he had given too much of time to studies. So this is something which becomes available to youngsters once they become mindful of how to use this platform, and only by exploring. Like Erin Gruvel said that we have to throw darts in the dark. We have to keep on exploring, and with every child, a different technique or a different opportunity will strike gold, will connect with them, and that is how they'll start using this channel for a better understanding, for better consequences. And this is how others will also get influenced and infected with the same bug. Teachers can also use the blog to share informal and non-academic views and experiments on the concept. Sometimes, because of restrictions or limitations of time and curriculum, we do not have the opportunity to explore at length some subject or some area which fascinates us, or something that really inspires us. So to delve deeper into the layers of that very fascinating, very enticing concept, which is a part of the curriculum. Teachers can take up writing blogs. They can, share them over emails. They can put a link to it, or just generally announce that they've this is my handle is Suditi's Verbosity, wherein I talk about life. And on my website, on my company's website, Filira Training and Consultancy, I post regularly about management topics. So I announce it openly that these are my blogging handles, and you can take a look. And every other month, I post on it. So this is how teachers can encourage students. They can get to know the teacher beyond just the person, the formal teacher facade that she puts on or he puts on. They get to know the actual person behind that cloak of a very formal personnel in their life. And then they connect better. They understand the teacher's likings, dislikings, dispositions, and their modality to communicate, and how he or she delves or interacts with the concept and the subject. And that anything can rub off on the students, and they can enhance their learning, academic and otherwise, through these efforts of the teacher. They can also be encouraged to write blog posts of their own. You can have an assignment wherein everybody will make a blogging handle, and for this term or this semester, we are going to have one blog each after every 2 weeks or 3 weeks on this and this subject. So here is a list of subjects. Choose areas that you would want to write blogs about. I'm giving you 9. Out of this, 4 you can pick up and write regular blogs about them. This could be the length. This, it should have this aspect. It should include this, that, and everything. And then show it on the multimedia enabled classroom, and discuss, have feedback, have peer reviews, have discussions. That will make the use of the internet for much more productive and helpful, constructive purposes apparent and understandable to the young minds who are otherwise hooking onto the internet for not so helpful reasons. And this will, of course, help them to perform better in their academic spheres in the real world scenario, wherein they will have to write reports in whatever capacity, even if they are academicians or professionals serving in the industry. They will have to write reports, they will have to express their opinion, they will have to present papers, present PPTs. So those kind of communication skills, that confidence, that ability to convince, to provide evidence based backed arguments to whatever they are suggesting, whether it is a research paper or it's a report or it's a PowerPoint presentation to the board of directors or to investors, that will become easier for them. And becoming open to public scrutiny, public interaction, and taking in criticism, taking in views and opinions, and how to use them for self improvement will also become easier for them, which is something that they face only at a later stage in life when they actually go out in the world. So this was all that I wanted to share with you about how to use Twitter and blog writing. And there's a small handout on this which I've already shared with Dama ma'am, and I'm sure, and she'll of course email it to all of you after today's session.